All right, the next document we're going to look at is the FHA Loan Contingency Document. You will need a loan contingency document even if it's cash. We're going to look at the FHA one and know that most of them are very, very similar to this one. So again, once you fill out your loan contingency document, you're going to just make sure you send your whole packet to your coach to review. So I want to start back over here though by looking at what exhibits and addenda we need to complete. So they would all be here because you would check them. And then I write on a sticky note or on my desk or on the side of my laptop in pencil compensation A, community association, which is HOA for short, B, FHA, C, seller's property disclosure, which is SD for short, would be D. I'm not sure why I put that D up here. So I'd put D down here. Then ABAD, I'd put as E, and I'd write those down so that way now I know when I'm going through my room what documents I need and what letters I'm going to use, and I'll show you why that's important here in just a second. So I'm going to start with my loan contingency document. Mine pre-fills. I'm not sure if yours pre-fills, but mine pre-fills. The first thing I'm going to put up here is going to be the letter. Where does this letter come from? It comes from my contract. So I need to make sure that those two letters match. So if I haven't written them down, now I have to try to open DocuSign again or get out of this document, go to the other one. It's a whole thing. So you're best off just writing them down so that I can just come here and say, oh, what letter did I put? Oh, I put C. So in this box would be C. I'm going to autofill mine. So yours DocuSign should also let you autofill based on what you've put under the like pre-fill page. So it's autofilled with the offer date of the offer. If it doesn't autofill, you need to make sure you put that in. Typically, it's the day that you're writing the offer, so it would be today, 1/27, right? Then it pre-filled with the address, but this is all stuff I need to fill out. So first loan. They're not going to be taking a second mortgage to purchase a home. It's going to be the first loan on that property for them. The percentage of purchase price, that is how much the lender is going to give them. So I see these come through where it says 5%. That means that your client is paying 95% of the purchase price and the lender's only going to give them a 5% loan. Outlandish, right? No. This is what the lender is going to give them. So if they're doing a 3% down payment, 97% would go here. If they're doing a 5% down payment, 95% would go here. If they're doing a VA loan and they're not doing a down payment at all, 100% would go in this blank. And this document is very similar to the VA document. We're on an FHA document. 3 to 3.5 is the typical down payment I see on FHA. It's probably the most popular loan type to get because of the interest rates and the high debt to income ratio limits for an FHA loan. So they probably will be paying, the lender will probably be giving them 97% or 96.5 if it's not their first time loan. 30-year fixed unless your lender tells you otherwise. This number needs to come from your lender. I checked with my lender today and they said the rates are running 7.2%. Crazy times. But that's what I would put, that they're going to be qualified based on a par rate of 7.5%, right? Because that's what my lender gave me. This also allows me to protect my client because say the rates today are 6.5. And then 14 days from now, they're 7.5, and my client can no longer afford this loan. Well, by putting 6.5, which is what they were qualified for and what they could afford the loan for, I've protected them because now they can back out when that interest rate shoots up and they can't afford the loan and get their earnest money back. It's fixed unless your lender tells you otherwise. Approved lenders. So this is who they're working with. So if you're using our lender, it's Atlantic Bay, the lender partnership that we have, I'd say Atlantic Bay. Then I'm going to take it a step further. That's all this document requires. But I'm going to put Atlantic Bay dash Aaron Blackman dash Aaron Blackman's phone number. Why would I want to put his phone number? Because it is the seller's and the seller's agent's right to call the lender and ask about the status of the loan. Is it just a pre-approval? Is it a or has it been through underwriting, et cetera, et cetera? So they can call Aaron and say, hey, Aaron, tell me about the status of this loan. Then that works for me, right? If my client is well qualified, I'm saying, please reach out to Aaron. I'd love for him to tell you how awesome my client is. So that's why I wouldn't stop by just putting the company. I would put the company plus the LO, the loan officer, plus their phone number. Number 3 is length of financing contingency period. This is another period that your buyer can back out of the contract and keep their earnest money. This is if for some reason during this period of time, my buyer's loan is denied, they get to back out and get their earnest money back. This typically is 14 days. If I'm the list agent and I see 25, 30 days, I'm calling you. I want to know why your client needs so much time to get pre-qualified. That should only take a few days. Why do they need that long? I'm concerned about the validity of your client at that point. So if you're trying to put in a strong offer, the less days, the better. Where can you get this number? Your lender. Call the lender. Hey, where are they at? I'm doing a 14-day financing contingency. How do you feel about this file? Is it pretty solid? They may say, nah, put 0. They're already completely underwritten. Then I could put 0. How much stronger is that to know that this client cannot back out for financing? So as a list agent, I love to see 0. Typically, though, it's going to be somewhere between 10 to 20 days, roughly. Your lender, though, your lender can guide you here. This is all explanations, just like the last one. The amendatory clause, this is the 3rd time they can back out and receive their earnest money back. So remember, the first time was due diligence. The second time is the financing contingency. The 3rd time is if the house fails to appraise. So if the house fails to appraise for what they've offered, you would want, your client wants the house, I'm assuming. So you would want to go back to the agent and say, hey man, we offered the sales price of $240, but it only appraised at $235. Can your sellers please bring the price down? Typically, they're going to, because they know that if they put it back on the market, they have to put it for appraised price or find somebody that's got $5,000 cash that wants to be upside down in a house. So unless it's a multiple offer situation like we had in COVID, or when we have some of these really hot listings that you have multiple offers, they're all over asking price. They don't care if it appraises or not. They just want to be in this house because it's next to their mom. For the most part, you're going to want it to appraise. So in this blank, you will put whatever your offer price is. So if I'm offering $150, I'm going to put the house must appraise for at least $150, because that's all the lender will loan you is the appraised value. Anything under $150, the buyer would need to bring in cash at closing. Cash is a loose term. They would need to bring in certified funds at closing. So just know this is your offer price needs to be in this blank. Down here under the mortgage premium insurance, 1.75 has not changed since I've been in the business. Ask your lender if you have questions, but that's what the upfront funding fee is. Most people are not going to want to pay 1.75. They don't have the funds to do so. So it's going to be added to the loan amount. Here, the seller shall pay. These costs are included if you're asking the seller for to pay anything toward your loan. So say I'm asking for $5,000 in seller closing cost. I'm going to just say that whatever these extra costs are included in what they're already giving me. Then the repairs required by the FHA. So any repairs in FHA shall be completed and paid for by whom? Do I want my buyer to pay for repairs that the appraiser requires? No, they don't own the house yet. So the seller will be the one paying for this. Now, how much should the seller pay? My answer is all of it. All of it. So a lot of people put a number amount in this blank. I write per appraisal. And I spell that correctly occasionally. Per appraisal is what I write here. Now, if it's a smart list agent, they're going to line through that and they're going to say, nah, we're going to pay $500. And then they would have the right to negotiate and say, hey, the appraiser has asked for $5,000 in repairs, so the roof has a leak, or the hot water tank isn't up to good. Whatever it's got peeling paint. Whatever the appraiser puts on the appraisal that it's subject to. So the house is worth $150, subject to someone repainting the front of the house. So if I'm a smart listing agent, I'm going to line through this and I'm going to say, nah, my client will only pay $500. If they don't line through it though, this puts them on the hook to pay whatever the appraisal says needs to be fixed. It's putting them on notice up front that my buyer will not pay a penny to fix the house that you're trying to sell him if it's required by the appraiser. So seller per appraisal, that's what I put here. Then down here for appraisal and inspection, the utilities must be on. They cannot be inspected or appraised without those things. So if they're off, so say the seller has moved out and they turned everything off, they would need to turn them back on. As required by FHA, both the buyer and the seller agree that public water or public sewer system is available. Property must be connected. And who will pay to have them connected? Again, I'm not going to let my buyer pay to have the seller's utilities turned back on. So I'm going to say the seller agrees to turn those utilities back on at whatever cost that is. I'm going to put $1,000 in here. Whatever it costs you to turn your utilities back on, they need to be back on. Or the buyer pays. The only time I would see the buyer paying is if it's a foreclosure of some sort or an investment property where they know they're getting a screaming deal and they are okay with spending the extra money to turn the utilities on. But otherwise, the seller needs to pay for that. Then here on 23, we've put it on the purchase and sale on the first page at the bottom. We disclosed material relationships. FHA is asking you to do that again. They're saying that you're certifying that this is or is not an arm's length transaction. Arm's length is anyone who is not related to me. So they're outside of where I can hug. They're outside of my arm's length. They are not related to me in any sort of way. They are an arm's length transaction. If they are, then I would need to say it's not an arm's length transaction because the buyer is the agent's spouse. The buyer is the agent's brother. The buyer is the agent's mom. Whatever I'm doing here, I'm saying that they are related to me in some sort of way. Then your buyer information here, your information. Remember, the realtor membership is RGA. That is, our MLS down on Roy Road. That's what it's asking. So RGA is our realtor membership. I'm going to fill out the selling broker's firm information again. I'm going to get that from Flex. I'm going to fill it out here. I'm going to type their name. They're selling a house out of our Flex, so I'm going to assume they're a member. So I'm going to type RGA in here as well. That is the FHA Loan Contingency. Don't forget this letter. Lots of people forget this letter. Don't forget that. All right. Next document.